my friends, 3,332 years ago, something happened tonight that changed the world. The world was no longer the same. 3,332 years. We're going into the 3,333rd year. Tonight, we are going to explain what happened as we go into the 3,333rd year of an event that changed the world. Before we speak about the giving of the Ten Commandments, I want to ask you a very simple question. A question which I think demands much attention. And when we understand and appreciate the answer to this question, we will have a much better understanding of what Judaism is all about. We are now in the third month. The Jewish months begin from the month of Nisan, where God took us out of Egypt. So Nisan is the first month, Iyar is the second month, and Sivan is the third month. God gave the Jewish people, which comprise of three divisions, Kohanim, Leviim, and Yisraelim. God gave the Jews, who are made up of three parts, the Torah, which is also made up of three parts. Torah, Nevi'im, and Ksuvim, which we give an acronym, Tanakh. And God gave it to us in the third month. And it was given by Moses, by Moshe, who was the third child. Why is it, as we go into the 3,333rd year of the giving of the Torah, why is it that we did not give the Torah in the first month? Why didn't we give the Torah in the month of Nisan? Because there is only, as we know, one God. And if there's only one God, we should give the Torah in the first month. And this becomes the question becomes even stronger, because it says in the 5th chapter of Tanya that when we study Torah, we become one with God. And if that's the case, then unity demands that we should be giving and celebrating this grand occasion in the first month of Nisan, not in the month of Sivan, the third month, but in the first month. So why is it that God, when he gave us the Ten Commandments, did it in the third month to a nation of three? And additionally, God did it we are going to start again. It's brought to my attention that the sound isn't good. We are going to start again. In just 1 minute, we will begin again. Excuse me. It's no good.
Okay, let's go check this out. Yeah. Internet audio. Make sure you're white here. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna turn off the Wi-Fi
Turn off Wi-Fi.
because I think that I think it's maybe it might be better if the Wi-Fi. I'm gonna turn off the Wi-Fi.
Just do it.
Okay, so let's try this again. And
We'll keep recording. Okay, we're back. We're starting again. I hope you can hear me properly. And we are going to get to the depth. We are going to understand a brand new realization of why 3,333 years ago, God, who is an only God, gave the Torah, which we just explained. The Torah is made up of three parts: Tanakh, which is an acronym for Torah, Nevi'im, and Ksuvim. God gave the Torah, comprised of three parts, to the Jewish people, who are made up of three denominations: Cohen, Levi, and Israelites, priests, Levites, and a typical Jew. And God gave it to us in the third month of Sivan. The question is, if anything, it makes sense because God is one, and that is the declaration of the Jewish people. And this is the axiom which Jews die with the sentence, Shema Yisrael, Hear O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. Judaism maintains that there is only one God. And in fact, in the 5th chapter of Tanya, it says that when you study Torah, it is the greatest unity. It is the greatest opportunity we have to become one with God. The analogy given by the first Chabad rabbi in the 5th chapter of Tanya is it as if we are hugging the king. That's what it says. It's as if we're hugging the king. So the question is, why would we give the Torah, and especially now as we enter into the 3,333rd year, why is the number 3 so dominant with the giving of the Torah? Why? It makes so much more sense to have the number 1, unity, perfection, unique and binding relationships, one relationship, not a multiplicity. Why did God, who's one God, give us the Torah in the third month as opposed to giving it to us in the first month, which would most definitely illustrate the unity and illustrate the oneness of our Creator and one Jewish people. And right now, the Jewish people need, as much as possible, unity. America needs unity. America needs healing. We are all in this coronavirus together, my friends. We need to unite. We need to transcend denominations. Was Moses Orthodox? Moses was Jewish. There was no room for division. Why so much emphasis on the number 3 as we enter into the 3,333rd year of the giving of the Torah, this event which we will also explain changed the world? That's the question. My friends, let me tell you that the answer to this question is deep. It's profound. The answer to this question teaches us that although in our world there are divisions, but they don't have to be divisions that divide us. You know what real unity is? Do you know what it means when we become one? When different entities cease to have a tugging competition, a tug of war, as I want my special interest and I want my special interest. And everyone's tugging and no one really has an idea, an appreciation that we are one nation, one people, one Torah. So why do we have an emphasis on the number 3? My friends, do you know why tonight, 3,332 years ago, we won? Do you know why? Because the angels in heaven, they said, hey, why, God, would you give this Torah, this godly gift, to a people who are mortal and who mess up? You know, Jewish people, like all human beings, have an evil inclination, an animalistic soul. It has very coarse tendencies and inclinations and impulses. God, why would you give this Torah to such a mortal, finite, puny man? Why, Hashem, wouldn't you give this Torah to a lofty, celestial angels, ministering angels, people who are programmed, entities that have no evil inclination? Why, God, would you take the Torah and give it to man who sadly, is so tempted? And God answered, because you know why I created this world? I created this world that even though man is imperfect, even though man has these inclinations and these tendencies and these impulses, and let's call a spade, we mess up. We sadly, I can only speak for myself, we are finite and we make mistakes. And God said, that's precisely who I want to give the Torah to. To give it to angels, that's not a big deal. Because to give the Torah to angels, that doesn't accomplish anything. But to take mortal man, physical, coarse, base, humanity, and imbue within them a spirit of holiness, that's godly, that's an achievement, and that means something. And so too, to have unity when everyone is identical, it doesn't mean anything. I'm sorry to say, if everyone are clones and everyone is the same, it doesn't mean anything. Do you know what makes America, this nation, great? When you're allowed to be different. Yes, I know as we speak, there is horrible civil unrest in the streets of Minnesota. I know there are people in the world who are celebrating the division. It's painful. The division of mankind comes along the Torah with a secret. If I would have the might, I would run into the night in Minnesota right now and tell the people, my brothers and my sisters, do you realize that we're all made in the image of God? And because Hashem, God, wants real unity, he created us different. You're allowed to be different. You're allowed to have your own tendencies and your own talents and your own inclinations. Real unity means that despite your differences, despite the fact that I have my tendencies and my inclinations and what I believe to be sacred, and you have your tendencies, but you know what? We can overcome and transcend those differences, and we can come together as one. That is the beauty of unity. You know what makes the body a cohesive entity? Do you imagine if the heart said, hey, everybody, I'm the heart. You better listen to me, and all that matters is the heart. I pump vitality to all of you. And you know the brain could say, well, I control all of you. So who are you, heart, to tell me different? I am the king of the body, and how dare you tell me that I can't have what I want? Do you know what makes the feet? They're also special, because the feet, they control where we go, how we move. Every part of the human being, every organ is special. But the secret and the wonder of creation and of the human being is that despite these differences, we can get over the differences. We can accept that we are all part of one entity, one body, one people. My friends, this is the answer to the painful disunity in America today. Although you look different from me and I look different from you, in essence, we're all made in the image of God. That is profound. And therefore, God didn't want to give the Torah in the first month. Yeah. You give the Torah when there's only 1 month, when there are no other differences, when everyone's the same. Why would God take his Torah and keep it in heaven? That's when you have all angels. Everyone's perfect. What do you have to bring the Torah down into a world which is so polarized? You know why? Because that's when you have unity. That's when it's real. When you have the ability not to get along. When you have the ability for each organ to fight for their special interests. My friends, we have to transcend the differences and appreciate the soul, the neshama. It is the neshama, the soul, that unites us. And this is why God gave us the Torah in the 3rd month, not in the 1st month, because although there is a number 2, there are differences. We're able to overcome those 2. And we're able to bring those 2 together with number 3. Number 3 unites number 1 and number 2. You're allowed to be different. You're allowed to be blessed with your talents and with your accomplishments. That's great. That's what America's all about. We can and we will prevail, and we will be different. But remember, my friends, remember that we are all part of one plan, of one God. And that's real unity, when you have differences, when you have a heart, when you have a brain, when you have a foot, and when you have an arm, and they are together despite their differences. That is the secret, my friends, of unity. That is the secret of America's greatness. I want to share with you something very beautiful, very profound. My friends, many years ago, we all know how tumultuous Israeli politics is. It took 3 elections to form a government. Unbelievable. Everyone has an opinion. Everyone has a party, and everyone has a special interest. That's just the truth. The Rebbe, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, he's dispatched many years ago. I think it was exactly 32 years ago. He sent a man from Melbourne, Australia, Yossel Gutnick. And he sent Yossel Gutnick to Israel to help form a coalition. And Yossel Gutnick, he had no ulterior motive. He was there to bring unity to, sadly, a very, very polarized society. Now, when you form a coalition government, everyone has what they need. Hey, you want me to join your coalition? What's in it for me? You got something for me we could talk about? And he had a daunting challenge of trying to bring the different parties, the different beliefs, the different special interests together. And he had an appointment with Geula Cohen, a lady who was very involved in Israeli politics, and she was part of the fabric of the Israeli society. And the Rebbe said, Rebbe, and Yosef Gutnick wrote to the Rebbe, and he cried out, and he says, tell me, what do I tell Geula Cohen? What do I tell her? Rebbe, can you give me some advice? What do I tell this lady? She's threatening to bolt discussions and not to join the coalition. What do I tell her? How do I convince her to bring her into the big tent of the unity government? What do I tell her, Rebbe? The Rebbe told Yosef Gutnick, tell Geula Cohen to remember the sincerity, the purity, the wonder that she had in 1948 when she helped fight for the Jewish people. When Israel was under siege, they had just declared a country. They were bombarded. Their future was bleak. And you know what? All the Jews, all the different factions, they forgot about their differences. They left their party behind. They were too interested in fighting for survival. There was no room to worry about what I am, what you are, how different you are from me. It was about the essence. It was about the soul. It was about our people surviving. The Rebbe told Yosef Gutnick, tell Geula Cohen to remember the way she felt in 1948, and then she will be able to create a coalition government. My friends, when we were young, I can only speak for myself, I was more altruistic. Young people are pure. Young people are full of hope. Let's be pure again. Let's go back in time 3,332 years. And there we were standing by the mountain. You know what we told God? Na'aseh v'nishma. We will do. And only then will we try and understand. It was a pure vulnerability. In relationships, you need to be vulnerable. You need to understand that the other part of you is in fact you. You may look different, you may seem to be different, but in essence, we're one. It's okay to be in the third month. It's okay to have differences. It's okay to have impulses and inclinations which differ from your brother or sister. But you know what makes us special? That it's just not monolithic and one. It has to be this way. No, because people aren't the same. God allows for differences. Let me tell you something. I came to Ohio State University 28 years ago. And I came, and there was a girl, and I came from Melbourne, Australia originally. And this particular girl, she came to the Chabad house, and she said, she was always welcome. She came all the time. She really enjoyed it. And she came with her ripped jeans. And she had, I asked, once, she had different earrings in her nose. And I liked it because I come from Melbourne, Australia. And it reminds me of my homeland. The Aborigines have earrings in their nose, and it's art, and And I asked her, I said, tell me, the other day you came, and she was asking me, before I tell you what I asked her, she was asking me, she said, Rabbi, tell me, why is it that all you Orthodox Jews, you're all the same? You have no personality. You all look the same. At the Chabad convention, they take a picture of 5,000 rabbis throughout the entire world on a mission to help their brothers and sisters wherever they may be. And she said, if I looked at that picture and I said, where's Rabbi Kaltmann? It'd be even harder than finding Waldo. And she said, why does your religion, Judaism, stifle you? Why does it take away your individual flavor, your individual entity? I said, Adria, answer this question. Yesterday you came, you had a brand new pair of jeans, and they were slashed on the right knee. Today you're coming with another pair of jeans, and they're slashed under the left knee. Can you explain to me what happened? Nebach, it looks like something's wrong with your wardrobe, with your jeans are slashed. She said, Rabbi, you don't get it. That's the fashion. Oh, I said, oh, now I get it. How much do these jeans cost? She said, $150. $150 for damaged jeans. Rabbi, they're not damaged. It's fashion to slash them under the right knee and the left knee. Unbelievable. You're allowed to have different fashion statements. You're allowed to be different. But what Judaism celebrates is bringing these differences together. Saying and realizing and appreciating that we don't want to give the Torah to a nation of one. We want to have a Kohen Levi Yisrael. We don't want to give the Torah in the first month where everything is the same, bland. Everyone exists. We want to give the Torah in the third month when there are differences, where people think differently, but nevertheless, despite the differences, we come together as one united people. If I would be in Minnesota tonight, I would tell my friends, don't you realize that we are one people? Don't you realize that there's one God and he loves us all, and we have to respect each other and respect our differences? My friends, let me tell you, the Mishnah in Sanhedrin asks a question in the Talmud. The Mishnah asks, why? Why is it that all of the animal kingdom were created in pairs, except for Adam and Eve? Only one Adam, only one Eve. Why? Wouldn't it make more sense to have a multiplicity of human beings? Why only one Adam and one Eve when all the other animals were created in groups, large groups? Why? The Talmud answers. You know why? Because no one should have the audacity to say that their parents, their ancestors are greater than someone else's ancestors. At the end of the day, we all come from the same Adam. We come from the same Eve. We are one humanity. And no one, absolutely no one, can claim difference. That's why God created one male and one female. My friends, the answer to the horrible dissension, the violence, which is spewed forth just recently, the answer is very simple. When we concentrate on a one God, a one essential being, an eye which sees, a heavenly eye that sees, and a heavenly ear that absorbs and hears everything. When we understand that, my friends, then you know what happens? Then there won't be crimes. There won't be injustice. There won't be racism, because we will understand that we are held accountable. And we need to know that God is very much part of our existence, very much part of who and what we are. You see, if you look in the Psalms and the Tehillim, it says 26 times, Ki la'olam chesdoi, that God's kindness is everlasting. And the question is why? Why did we get it? After the first one, we know God's kindness is everlasting. Why did I have to say it 26 times? The answer is that until the Torah was given, the Ten Commandments, tonight, the anniversary, until the Ten Commandments were given, heaven was heaven and earth was earth. Physical and spiritual did not mesh. They didn't come together. You know, Moses was an old man. Why did God tell an 80-year-old man? It's not like he had a handicap pass, you know, that he had to walk up Mount Sinai, 80 years old. Why? And why did God, the Shekhinah, the divine presence, have to come down to mountain of Sinai? You know why? Because 3,332 years ago, heaven came down to earth. Finally, physical wasn't just physical. Spiritual wasn't just spiritual. They could finally fuse together. You're allowed to be different. Physical is allowed to be physical. Spiritual is allowed to be spiritual. But you know what makes it godly? The number 3. What makes it godly is fusing, bringing heaven and earth, physical and spiritual together. That's number 3. That shows signs of true unity. If everyone in Minnesota were the same, if everyone had the same interests, if everyone believed exactly what their brothers and sisters believed, there wouldn't be real unity. Do you know when you have real unity? When, despite the differences, despite the fact that I believe this and you believe that, we're able to get over the differences. Number 3, that's why the Torah is given. And I want to tell you something, number 3, in the Kabbalah, in the Jewish mysticism. Number 3 denotes beauty. Why is number 3 beautiful? You know why? Because when you have only one color, and you can even have 2 separate colors, it's not beautiful. Because they're different. Because each one is espousing only their own color. Do you know when you have beauty, Tiferes? When you have 3. When the 2 colors, which are distinctly removed and not the same, fuse together to produce a 3rd color. That shows strength. That shows real unity. Despite the differences of having different organs in one body, when they all work together in harmony, then you have a healthy people. Then you have a Jewish people who can function. Not everyone has to believe what I believe, but I have to respect that he is my brother, he is my sister, and we all belong to the same Am Yisrael. This is something which is so imperative. So tonight, my friends, you know, people have a custom not to sleep tonight. People stay up the entire night learning, and they would then have a minyan early in the morning. Because of the coronavirus, we aren't having that, but that's what would normally happen. And why do they stay up the whole night? Because 3,332 years ago, The Jewish people slept in at Sinai, and we have to make it up to God. So we stay up the entire night learning Torah. And the Rebbe asked an incredible question. How could the Jewish people sleep in? How could the Jewish people for a moment come late to the most important appointment in the history of the world? We said there are 26 times that God's kindness is everlasting. Do you know why? Because for 26 generations, God sustained the world, even though the Torah hadn't been given. From Adam to the giving of the Torah is 26 generations. For those 26 generations, King David in Psalms writes, God's kindness was everlasting. God sustained the world. Even though the world shouldn't have existed, we were on borrowed credit, borrowed time. And you know why the Jewish people went to sleep? How could they blunder? How could they miss the most important appointment in the history of the world? The giving of the Ten Commandments. Forget about giving Charlton Heston the best role of his career. We're talking about the turning point of the creation of the world. And the Jewish people had the audacity to sleep in to the King of all kings, to the ultimate Hashem, God, who holy Shekhinah, divine presence, rested on Mount Sinai. And the Jews sleep in. And the Rebbe explains, the Jewish people thought that when they knew that when we go to sleep, our souls ascend to the heavens above. Our souls are involved in spirituality. That's what happens. Our souls are totally absorbed by godliness, by the secrets. Like we said, the angels, they don't have an evil inclination. They fly high, they're spiritual. They don't have the impulses, the physicality, the coarseness that we have. And the Jews wanted to mimic the angels. They thought, let our souls be in heaven, we'll be asleep, and then we'll be able to appreciate the deepest secrets of the Torah when we sleep. Comes along God, and God says, no, you missed the whole point of giving of the Torah. I gave you the Torah, not the angels. You know why? Because I want you to take your physical world. I want you to take your inhibitions, your impulses, your evil inclination, your animalistic tendencies. And I want you to elevate them. I want you to make them holy. I don't need angels, celestial beings to proclaim my praise, says God. I need you, finite, mortal, limited man. I need you to proclaim God, the ruler of the universe, and understand that there is a higher authority that you need to be accountable to. My friends, this is the number 3. You can just have the number 1 in heaven. You can just have spirituality. It can be great. And the Jewish people thought, and they were wrong, that they would go to sleep so they could have a spiritual encounter with God, which wouldn't be limited by the physical body. Comes along Hashem, comes along God, and wakes up the Jews. Do not sleep. That's why I created the world, so that you can elevate, you can imbue within the physical world a spirit of holiness. And that is our mission. And that's what happened. Heaven came down to earth. The two met. The differences were able to meet and become one. Not number 1, but number 3, because they blended together. They overcame their needs. Physical wants to be physical and spiritual wants to be spiritual. No! Our job 3,332 years ago is to make physical into spiritual. And then we complete the equation, because God took spirituality and made a physical world. And now we have to take that physical world and elevate it and make it one. One world, one physical, one spiritual, and that's the number 3. It takes God, a higher power, to bring together the unity between diametric opposites. You don't need polarization. You need leadership. You need to tell the people that we are all one, that we're allowed to be different. We are all made in the image of one God, and that's our greatness. That is the power of Shavuos, and that is what we have to educate our children with this thought. May we go from strength to strength. May we be pure, like Yosef Gutnick told Geula Cohen. Remember, what was the purity? What invoked, what tugged at your heart in 1948? What got you the strength to get over the differences and the different special interests that each group is lobbying for? Go back to your soul. Moses was not Orthodox, he was Jewish. There's one Jewish people. We do have differences. We do have different inclinations. But don't get caught up in the differences. Emphasize what we have in common. Build mutual bonds of understanding and appreciation. When we can transcend our differences, when we are able to appreciate that we are all one people, from one Adam, from one Eve, we are one. When we're able to do that, when we're able to delve into the Torah given by one God to a people of 3 in the 3rd month, and the Torah has 3 parts, that's fine. Let's see the soul. Let's see the spirituality that will give us the strength to fuse together and to imbue within our daily lives meaning, purpose, substance. Then, my friends, then that grand event will be re-experienced with the coming of Mashiach very, very soon. Good Jontef, and I want to tell you one more thing. Yisker is being said, I'm going to have in mind for everyone, for your loved ones. I will have them in mind. I will come to the Torah on Shabbat, on the 2nd day of Shavuos. I will clutch, I will hold the Sefer Torah, and I will cry out in the heavens above that God should have Rahmanas on all of us. God should have mercy on us. He should bless us with good health, with happiness, with nachas, with only revealed good. And you know what, my friends? If this tiny, little, minuscule coronavirus can bring the world to a screeching halt, 7.7 billion human beings have changed their lives for something they can't even see. If that little disease, that little coronavirus can be so potent, how much more so, my friends, are we able to overcome our differences? Are we able to do a mitzvah, a good deed? And that is the whole idea of remembering them. We remember. Of course, God remembers the souls of our loved ones, but we have to remember their stories, their strengths, their legacies. And when we remember, we become greater, and we realize that we will win this coronavirus war. We will overcome. But as we explained, we have to become better, more sensitive, prouder Jews, more committed Jews, and then the victory will be ours. Good Jontef. Shabbat Shalom. Have a very happy Shavuos. We should receive the Torah. B'simcha u'v'pnimius. Thank you.